Hello, my name is Emma Jo Bain, and I am your host for this episode of the College and Career Readiness Podcast. Today we are joined by our special guest, new Latthivongskorn, an Inderkum alumni. Before we start our interview, remember to take control of your future, join the California Army National Guard, and serve your community during local and state emergencies. You'll learn marketable skills, earn a paycheck, and get money for school. Contact Sergeant Aquino today at 916-233-7615. So, New, can you tell us about your time here at Inderkum and how that has prepared you to take the next step of life?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me here today. It's been incredibly exciting to come back to, where I got started.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated 2008, so it's been almost 11 years now. And when I think back to my time at Inderkum, there were a few things that worked out really well, and a few things that essentially just sort of things fell into place, And so what I mean is definitely I was in the first full 4-year graduating class of the school, So as such, there are some positives to being in a new school. Like, things are very exciting, and I tried to take up all the opportunities that were available. So I tried to take as many AP classes as I could at that time, knowing that I really felt like education was going to be my way to success. And so I feel like, there was enough of that. There wasn't like a ton, I think I took every single AP class available except like AP art. But, and it's not like I took like 20, 30, it's like there's only a handful available.
Right.
But I think there was enough to really, to have me working and studying and kept me busy. I think in addition to that, some of the challenges of it being a super new school was that there weren't that many extracurricular activities around, actually. I think people were interested in being involved in anything. It's like you start it,
right.
And so that was the case then. For me, I actually was working at my parents' restaurant. We had a Thai restaurant at the time, so I worked there like 20, 30 hours a week, like on weekends and in the summers. So that was essentially my extracurricular thing, and
right.
how I spent my time outside of class.
Cool. Well, where did you get your undergraduate degree?
Yeah, so I went off to UC Berkeley, and that was when I went to UC Berkeley straight from high school,
mm-hmm.
from here, and I majored in molecular and cell biology.
Wow, what made you want to choose that major?
Like what makes any high school student think they know what they want to do in life, which is based on, a mix of what parents were saying, like consider being a doctor,
right.
this and that, or what you think you're good at from high school, right? Like I was doing okay in like the sciences, and I was like, all right, I think bio is kind of interesting. So I did that. But I will say that, as it turned out, like I stuck with it and I kept with that major until I graduated. But, plenty of people find that that's not the best fit for them, and then they change. And I think as long as you change relatively quickly within the first year that you're there, I think, you don't waste time, really. That's a part of going to college, is like exploring what exactly it is that you
right.
might want to do. But I stuck with biology. Learned way too many proteins and DNA things I don't even remember now, and so actually,
aren't you in medical school?
I do, but turns out you don't need to know all of that. No.
Really? So what has been your path?
Yeah, so my path is, I didn't really know that I wanted to do med school. That was not my narrative in terms of, I was 5 years old and I knew I wanted to become a doctor. Some folks have that, and that's great. For me, it was more about being in undergrad at Berkeley and doing some of the traditional things that people do to figure out what they want to do. So I did research in the lab, like literally pipetting stuff.
Yeah.
Found out I didn't love that, so it's not for me. And then I also volunteered at a homeless clinic. It's called Suitcase Clinic at Berkeley, student run. I ran the foot washing service for a year and a half. So every week we washed people's feet and gave them clean socks and foot hygiene, which is actually really important when you're marginally housed. And then I did volunteered in kind of doing health education stuff where we went out to middle schools and elementary schools in East Oakland, and we were talking about diabetes and high blood pressure and all these health issues. So I would say that that was my path, and by the end of that, towards the end of college, and I really sat back and thought what is it that I really feel like I like, or another way to frame it is what fulfills me, right?
Yeah.
What do I feel like I want to, what's going to be worth spending my time doing?
You're passionate
yeah,
about,
making an impact in the community, and in health, and hey, I had the capacity to do it, I was making my way through, so I decided to do that. And I think all of this is not done on my own, right? Along the way, you really need mentors. That's one of life's secrets. It's nobody does anything alone. You meet folks, mentors, sponsors, advisors who end up oftentimes believing in you, or seeing something in you even when you don't, right? So especially, when you're in high school, it's hard. You're young, you're not sure what you want to do, so many things. But sometimes these mentors who can be your teachers, your counselors, some of the staff at the school, maybe they see something or that you might not even fully know yet in yourself, and lean on those people, because it's really how we all do it in the world. So
right. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
But continuing on
Yeah.
in your life story,
Yeah.
you graduated from Berkeley.
Graduated from Berkeley at 2012. By then, I made the decision I want to try to go to med school.
Mm-hmm.
There were a host of these other questions because I was undocumented. I still am.
Right.
So I knew that, all right, I had this goal. I want to go to med school, but I had so many questions. Is it even possible? Back then especially, no one was being extremely public about being undocumented and pursuing medical school. It's just a very specific area. So, I think through a perfect storm of I had gotten involved in immigrant rights work also during college, outside of school. Let me backtrack and share that to pay for college, I was really desperate, and so I applied to all these scholarships outside of school. There are these nonprofits that, because being undocumented, you don't have access to federal financial aid. So any loans or grants that normally help pay for a lot of your college, we don't have access to, and so you have to search in other places.
Okay.
So I got a scholarship from a nonprofit. They're now called Immigrants Rising. Anyone can check them out. They're a great organization. And that was when I met undocumented students for the first time,
Wow.
not in my family. And it changed my life, right? Because I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one going through this, right? Other people get me. Here's how they're doing it. There have been folks who've been trying to do, going to school and finish and do work for many years.
Yeah.
And it really was my, community. And so that would be actually my other general advice. It's find your community, and find those who you can get support from, and you feel like you belong. I share all that to say that I was okay, I don't know how I'm gonna go to med school, but I'm gonna do it. So I just with two other friends started this network. We're there has to be so many other undocumented students who want to go to med school but don't know how. So let's just at least answer all the questions together, let's do it together. And so literally I started a Google Doc with these two friends, and it said like we're going to med school. Like that's what we titled it. It's a spreadsheet, and we listed like all our questions, that we all had, and we're trying to answer. And then we started to send out like a way to create a network, like an intake form for people who are in the same situation. And then it started catching fire. Literally shared to like different campuses, different colleges, and
wow.
went from like 20 to 50 to 100, 200, 300 people, in this network. Long story short, it ended up becoming an organization now called Pre-Health Dreamers. That's
wow.
we're a nonprofit organization. Our whole mission is to support ourselves, like undocumented students, to go into health.
That's impressive.
So I worked and did that for 2 years. I really like built out the organization before going on to med school, like returning to school. And I'm now in my last year of 4 years in med school.
Where are you?
I'm at UCSF, University of California, San Francisco, which is the only health graduate campus. They don't have undergrad.
How do you like it there?
It's great. Yeah, UCSF is a great place. Like many of the UC schools, it's a public school, but it's like well respected. You have tons of resources. You can get involved. Excuse me, in like so many things.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what advice do you have for undocumented students today?
Yeah.
In high school, maybe.
At the high school level, I would say, as much as possible, be open to letting others in, and sharing about your situation. Because even though it's counterintuitive, actually when you let others in, that's where you find a community and you find support, and you others can know what you're struggling with. And particularly at a place in schools, there are lots of people who want to support you,
right.
And so they can often really try to help you get to where you want to. And particularly when we're talking about going to college, in California right now, fortunately, there's been a lot of changes over the past years, and so now it's so much more possible. Of course, it's still, difficult and competitive, but the resources are out there. More people know, about the resources. So really, really try to be open to that. And the other thing is just to stay hopeful. I know that that's easier said than done. There's in today's political climate, there's like every day there's something going on, and particularly with being undocumented. I still struggle with that. When the current administration has all these policies about deporting people and detaining people, and ICE is doing crazy things. I just want to acknowledge that pain is real, and that trauma is real, and just find ways, do what you need to do to support yourself and get through it. And remember that it's temporary, so, keep working towards your goals. And you never know what's going to happen in the future.
Hey, thank you. Next, could you tell us a little bit about your career aspirations?
Yeah, so I am really hoping to, in 5 years, finish all my training, become a doctor. So, half of the week, let's say, I'm going to hope to see patients in clinic, in the hospital, and really interact one-on-one, because I really enjoy being able to talk to people and have relationships in that way. But I also want to go on and work at the public health side of it, at the big picture level. Maybe work and make new laws and policies, because another part of what I am passionate about is, how many, where are we at in terms of immigrants in California, for example, having access to health care, So for the Affordable Care Act, for example, at the beginning, undocumented folks were not allowed to to take advantage of like Covered California, the new insurance plans, all that stuff. And we've made, there have been some changes now where kids can at least get access to Medi-Cal, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So
that's really inspiring.
That's what I'm gonna do. Thank you. Yeah.
If there was one thing you want our audience to know about pursuing dreams and aspirations, what would that be?
That's a hard one. One thing? I'm not.
Or multiple.
Yeah. One thing that I would so I guess a few things. So the first thing that I'm going to repeat is, don't try to do it alone. Find a community.
Get a mentor.
Get a mentor, exactly. The second thing is never say never. I would not have imagined that I would end up where I ended up. And I think that that's how life works. You ask a lot of folks and adults who are well into their careers, they would not have foreseen that they were going to take the path that they took. So give yourself the best shot. Keep your expectations high, your dreams high, shoot for the stars, and see where you land. It's cliche, but I think it's a good approach to have a goal and then, be somewhat flexible in the way that you're going to get there, because life happens and it may not work out in the way that you thought it would, but that doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. And just keep that in mind and move forward.
Okay, that's really good advice. Thank you so much, Nu, for participating in our podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. It's our pleasure.